This is Phantom Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Lyubim Kogan for the first time. Welcome to the Phantom Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Phantom.
Want to let people know that this is the first time we're talking to you, and we're going to talk about a couple of things today. But we're going to focus on like why you funded veterans with your own money, and then we're going to talk about like the backstory behind that. But before that, let people know if they take the QR code and scan that code, they'll find out about affiliate opportunities for Podmatch. If you're a podcaster or you're a podcast guest, that's kind of like a Tinder for podcast people. So they can line up each other and find your guest, find your host. That's what that's about. They scan that, you can check that out. Um, and then what we're going to do now is we're actually going to switch that QR code and move it to your
I'll keep it on
URL.
for a second. Can you keep Phantom? Because I think I would like to mention that, we met through Podmatch,
Mm-hmm.
and I am also a big fan of Podmatch because without Podmatch, I would not be able to meet people like you and be a guest and actually talk about my mission.
Oh, cool.
So if you are enjoying podcasts and you were thinking about starting your own or becoming a guest, where you can talk about what's important to you, then Podmatch is the platform that both Phantom and I use. And, I am a big fan. So,
Oh, great. Thank you.
woohoo, Podmatch.
Yeah, it's a really, technology is wonderful. And, when you're a podcaster, sometimes you're like, well, how am I going to find guests? At the beginning of my career, I was like, I used Instagram to find, I
Yeah.
DM people directly on Instagram. And that was my style. That was what I did. Um, uh,
Mhm.
and I still do that, but Podmatch is like 90% of my guests come through that. So that's just a
And
really cool.
one thing that I would like to mention here is that I know you're a techie. You refer to yourself as a techie, and I refer to myself as a technologically challenged individual. And at this, and Podmatch is such an easy interface for me that
Mhm.
I could find you and I could find a lot of people. And it is actually is run by real life people who are really cool. So if you are thinking about doing podcasts or becoming a guest, you have to check out Podmatch.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to do. And the QR code, if you don't know how that works, take your phone, scan the photo. It'll bring you right to the URL, and then you don't have to wait to type it in. So that's what the process is. If some people say, "What's the QR code?" Yeah, I'll let you know. You like just take your phone, scan it, and then you'll get to where you need to go. So we've kind of gone through that. We're going to actually flip that to your URL now. So now
Thank
if
you.
people go to it, they're actually going to be brought to your wingsforheroes.org. So if you scan that, you
Mhm.
can follow what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to discuss why you funded veterans with your own money. But before we get to that, I ask every guest two questions before we get started. I ask, like, what motivates you and why do you do what you do? So maybe you can seg into that.
I think, I would like to answer those two questions while answering your main question. Would that be okay?
Yeah,
So
that's
we don't
fine.
kind of separate it into different topics because it's one. Um, I think that some missions they do not require permissions to start or funding. And I grew up in mid 70s, and when I was 5 years old, or in the middle, in the beginning of my childhood, the Afghanistan war started, and it lasted until I was graduating from high school. And if you look at kids today, 40 years later, there is exactly the same thing going on right now. That 5-year-olds are growing up in the middle of a real war, and when you see that something keeps repeating itself over generations, there are two things you can do. You can look away and pretend that nothing is going on, or like it's not my business, what can I do? Or you can do something about it. And in the case of Wings for Heroes, I decided I'm going to take amputee veterans and I'm going to give them what I felt they needed the most, and that would be number one, a place where they will feel camaraderie, because when they come back, they are often, most of the time, they're isolated, and they were a unit, a part of something bigger, and then they become like isolated. They don't have that, they miss that camaraderie. And I also knew that for somebody who's been traumatized, and we're talking about, when a person loses a limb, they're traumatized. And for somebody who is really traumatized, for them to come back to life, they need some kind of real, like, intense experience, where I guess it's a reset. And in my case, my sport, my hobby, my passion, for some part of the year, my profession is flying paragliders. And the paraglider is just this little plastic bag that you have over your head with little strings, and you're sitting in the backpack. We don't have a fuselage and we don't have an engine. And I thought that if we take an amputee veteran off a cliff, and the idea is that, when I went flying for the first time, I had a lot of issues because, I was working in Ukraine in the middle of war. And of course, you have a lot of issues when you talk about daily life, and then running a business was really challenging. And I remember when I went flying, I forgot about all my problems. The only thing I wanted to do was to live.
Yeah, you force it. If you do something that's dangerous, then you can't think about, what's going on. You got to focus on the thing you're in.
Exactly. It's like I didn't have to focus. Like everything, my whole being, my this primordial brain took over, and it's like, we're gonna die. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, bro. And then I stopped myself. I stopped myself, and I said, we're going to land, and we landed. And then, I had such an intense experience that I really wanted to learn how to fly myself, and then get good enough to fly other people. And the experience that most passengers have, like more than 2 women told me that it was better than having their kids when you go flying. But in our case, I just thought that intense experience could be paragliding, and that was the beginning. That was the idea. I will take veterans who had amputations. I will bring them to a warm beach, to a very comfortable environment. They will be surrounded by a group of volunteers, and we're going to show them a lot of things. And we live and run the program in Turkey because we have the beach here, we have the mountains. It's middle of December. It's 90 degrees right now, so we can go pretty much year round. Except we have to stop in the summer because it's really hot. If somebody has a prosthetic, it's really hot. There's not enough ways to cool off. But 9 months out of the year, this is like heaven. Perfect. And the highlight is like that we have the mountains and we have the beach. So we go up to the mountain and we fly veterans to the beach. And basically I saw a group of people who defended us and allowed us to do what we do right now, and not having to worry about running into a bomb shelter like some people, unfortunately, in Ukraine have to do every day. And those guys and girls, a lot of them volunteered, or US Army, most of them volunteered. Other countries, it's a different story, but when they're done, it doesn't matter where they come from. And that's, I took the model from the Red Cross, and I said that when the uniforms come off, they were defending something, they were following orders. And, in our case, they placed themselves on the way of danger. And I think they deserve to have a place where they can reconnect again, and where they can get a really positive experience. And I thought it was the whole mission, but it was step one. So after we flew, we realized that they have a lot of other things, like physical therapy, psychologists. Now we have, a swimming coach, a cycling coach.
Oh, wow. So you're starting to branch into cycling. You mentioned, like,
I just said I would let like, I hope I answered your question. I saw a need. I knew it needed to be done right now, and I did it. And I did it not because, the issue came up right in front of me now. It repeats over decades. It's the
you're
same
seeing a pattern
thing over and over, but it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse, and it's getting closer. And I thought, I am not a fighter. I'm not a veteran, but I will take care of them. And
You
I
felt
did
there,
it.
you saw the need, and you stepped up. And the thing that's interesting is, sometimes everybody says they support, the military or they support veterans, but then, like, what do they actually do? You stepped up and you actually saw a need. And a lot of times, we've been, at least in the U.S., a lot of times, like, how veterans are treated, we have a very big homeless problem, and a lot of them are veterans. And we haven't saw, and it's been going on, like, in the 50s, and I mean, up till now, it's happening. Like, it's happened. It probably went back to the Civil War, and people didn't actually study it or check it out.
Mhm.
They never probably did the numbers. They probably didn't analyze it,
Mhm.
but it's been probably going on as long as there've been wars. And I think it's super important for people to actually look and accept there's a problem and actually do something about it.
Yeah,
I think,
become a solution. Exactly. I think it's a perfect segue to, I built Wings for Heroes. It's a solution, or it's a bridge. There are governmental programs that exist, right? And there are people who qualified for those governmental programs. I'm talking about the United States right now. We have the best. First of all, we have the best and most professional military in the world. And then we have the best military benefits in the world. Nobody even comes close to what we have. But the issue is that when our veterans, the US veterans, when they came back from combat, they were so traumatized and so disconnected from the society and the reality that they came back to, that they didn't have the tools, and they didn't have and still don't have enough energy to go and ask for those benefits.
yeah.
Let me put it in the words that I've seen them describe it. And some guys say that I survived a war, but I'm not sure if I'm going to survive the blue tape of the VA.
Yeah, the bureaucracy.
Or
I mean, that's
the red tape,
Yeah,
not
red
the
tape,
red
yeah,
tape
I
of
mean,
the
I
VA.
think that's a big mistake is, like, people create these bureaucratic programs, and then they don't understand, like, if you're suffering from PTSD or you've got social and mental issues and stress, those things, if you're a regular person, it's like, "Oh, okay, I'll stand in line, I'll fill out this form, I'll go through this bureaucratic process." But if it should be more automatic. I mean, I think there should be more people from the bureaucracy reaching out instead of making people go through the red tape.
It
And
doesn't, unfortunately,
and
you're
that's our
right, but
government
unfortunately, it
doesn't
doesn't
work
work
that
that
way.
way.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't
doesn't
go.
work that way. And what what there is not much. We can do about that, but we can realize and understand that there are some people who have defended the United States of America, and now they cannot ask for benefits because they gave literally everything that they could. They left it there, Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam,
Mhm.
whatever war. It doesn't matter where they went. It was too much. And when they came back, they just don't have the capability, the capacity to ask for the benefits that are available to them.
Mhm. I think
So
that's a problem because you've got pride, you've got shame, you've got all these emotions, you've got all kinds of things that are going on in an individual. And so if you're trying to make somebody, oh, follow the rules, like stay in the box, well, they're outside the box, right? And so if you're when you're outside the box, you can't be reached
yeah,
in a pattern from some bureaucrat, right? You've got
exactly.
you need people outside. So that's where you have these like non-governmental agencies or or private institutions that will go and do their outreach. Well, that's what you're
Yes.
doing. Do you create an outreach? You create like,
So
hey,
so what? Let me just, this is a good point. Like, I had an idea, right? And I know that millions or billions of people have ideas, but ideas, they really, if you don't act on an idea, it's useless and it's worthless. It's worth absolutely nothing. Like, to me, all my ideas are the most valuable ideas that were ever thought on in the history of this planet because they are my ideas, right?
yeah,
And your ideas are the same way to you because they are your ideas. But the ideas, they become valuable to other people, and in this world, when we start acting on them, or when we start acting upon our ideas, we see that what comes out is useful or it's not. And the only way is to actually test an idea, see if it's valuable, is to do something about it. Excuse me. And it was very clear that until I make Wings for Heroes literally fly, until we're flying and we're doing the work and the guys are coming and I can show the results, I can show people that I'm the guy who's doing the work. What's unique about Wings for Heroes is that I was really curious to see what does it take to take a guy who is sitting at home, right? He's depressed, he just had an amputation, he has nothing left in his life, he has no goals, nowhere to go, the end. And what would it take him to get him through, to bring him back to life? That was the idea. So the experiences that I put veterans through, number one, they have to travel here. And I really, there are many reasons why I insist on being in Turkey. Financial reason is the big reason, because when you come to physical therapy, it's super expensive. But here, I can still manage it.
So your cost structure is like a lot more. So you're gonna make it so it's sustainable. Like if you do any kind of enterprise, you have to know your cost, like your operating cost, and like if your operating cost are like way beyond what you can actually make, you're not going to survive. So you want to make
you are the best interviewer I had in a long time, because one of the things that I did, by training, I have one of my degrees is accounting, and after Wings for Heroes it was functioning, I took my numbers and I thought I'll go out and find out how much others spend on treating veterans. And what I found out is that some organizations spend 4 times or more just on operation cost alone. Then what it costs me to fly somebody here, to house somebody here for a month, to go through a month of one-on-one therapies, swimming, coaching, and 24-hour concierge support that we do have, because I have such an awesome group of volunteers. It cost me, the whole thing cost me only $4,000 here.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Like if you run into in the US, you mean the Red Cross operating cost, like how much of that money actually goes to the program versus like paying for the building, paying for the advertising budget, paying for this, paying for that. A lot of times, like a lot of the organizations have such a high cost structure. It's like, well, how much of the money is going to that?
I will answer that question by again, perfect segue to Red Cross. Red Cross is one of the inspirations and models that I model Wings for Heroes after. Red Cross was started by a man named Henry Dunant, who was a Swiss banker. He was traveling to Italy for banking business back in the 1800s, and he ended up in Solferino on the day when a huge battle was fought between the Imperial Army, which is France, Italy, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So you had Austria-Hungary plus whatever soldiers they hired from other countries. There was more than 300,000 soldiers in that battle. And when they were finished, at the end of the day, Henry Dunant, he said he watched the whole thing. He said at the end of the day, there were more than 40,000 dead and wounded left in that field. There's nobody helping.
Yeah.
There's not one person. So that young Swiss banker, he went around villages and he organized all the people, which at that time mostly were women, because men were fighting in that war. And they went in that field and they started pulling out, the soldiers that were still alive. And he said that some churches had more than 500 soldiers. And it took them more than 1 week. And after he was finished, he went back to Geneva and he wrote a book that is called Memory of Solferino. Somebody borrowed my copy, but it's basically this little paper bag. It's really small and it's a quick read, but he told what happened on that one day.
Yeah, made him want
and that book became so popular that a year later he was able to start the Red Cross. And then less than 12 months later, they signed the first Geneva Convention. And the reason that Geneva Conventions are important is because Geneva Conventions, it's the rules that, countries that are at war, they're supposed to follow. How do you treat this, standby civilians? And the first convention was, what do you do with soldiers that
wounded soldiers
were,
on the field.
yeah,
Yeah.
that were wounded. What do you do with them? There's basically a book of rules of what happens when the war comes to a certain part. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that Henry Dunant was pushed out of the Red Cross by lawyers and business people,
Yeah, business.
and he disappeared for more than 20 years. And then more than 20 years later, somebody found him working in the hospice in Zurich, and he was destitute. Like if the hospice didn't give him his home to live in, he wouldn't have a home.
Wow.
So a man who started the Red Cross, now he lived all his life serving people and doing what he believed in, not working with the organization, with the Red Cross that he started, but for a small hospice. And actually, at the end of his life, they brought him back to Geneva, and he received the first Nobel Peace Prize for the work that he did with starting the Red Cross. He never became rich, and he became famous. And actually, he didn't even become famous, because right now nobody even knows. Not many people know who Henry Dunant was. But he spent his whole life caring for people who were dying, and his last words were, "Where has humanity gone?"
Yeah. Well, I think it's a problem because, profit has become like the main purpose, and some people associate profit with being morally good, but then they don't show any evidence of being morally good, right? So they think just having a profit makes them morally superior to somebody else, even if they don't show any actions. And I would argue, like, you have to do something for me to see what you're actually, actions speak louder than words.
Exactly.
So if you say, "Well, I'm a billionaire, and just being a billionaire, I'm giving people jobs," but then if you look at your actions, and you're actually more detrimental to happiness and the prosperity of most of the people, like what you're doing is not productive. It's actually destructive. And so we've got to change the narrative that it's just, it's automatic that greed is good. It's kind of like that Wall Street movie. Greed is good. It seems like that's where everybody's mind is, instead of actually doing the actions that would actually help other human beings.
Phantom, I think that, this is something that is really important for us to figure out in our lifetime, what actually is important in our lifetime. And, I immigrated in the United States back in 1992. I really I had big dreams and hopes, and I actually, I got to experience and achieve big goals. And in 2014, I got to co-author a book with Steve Forbes. And in finance, it's a huge platform to go up for growth. I felt that I'm going to be one of the biggest finance guys in the United States. But the reality is that even though I was successful, in terms of getting celebrity status and financially, and being involved with all these people who are important, I was really empty, I was like an empty refrigerator, still shiny and A grade on the outside, but when you open the door, there's nothing in there. It's nothing, I unloaded everything just to get to that goal, and the goal was to become financially successful, make a name for yourself, just become an author, become a known public figure, because that's the way things work. I just, I came from the outside. I looked at the system, and I am operations guy. The reason I do everything in Wings for Heroes is because I actually like doing and improving things.
Well, you take from one discipline and you brought it to one that's more soul satisfying. That's what I find.
So I decided that after doing that, after achieving success in the States, I end up working in the Ukraine during wartime, and I know the risk that I'm taking, and I know that I want to be compensated for that risk. But then after 9 years, we have Russian drones destroying our most valuable asset, and here I am. I have to start over, and I'm sitting and I'm saying I'm 50 in a few months, right? I start from zero, rebuilding a business, or I'm going to do something that I was meant to do. It was just clear choice like that. So Wings for Heroes was started at the worst time that I could financially afford to do it. And my thought was to postpone it and let's come back to it later. But then you see these guys and girls who come back completely, some guys, some veterans have only one arm left. And that guy who I'm talking about, he was saying, look, I'm going to get out of this hospital because I have a 17-year-old daughter and I'm not done. I gotta help her. I am getting out of here. Okay. So yeah, I think about my challenges of running an organization, and I think about their challenges, right? And I'm thinking about the hope and the motivation that anybody who sees us in action, our organization, people gravitate. They want to help. And they're so inspired by a young kid hopping on one leg across the beach, jumping towards the water, because some prosthetics, you cannot put them in the water, that everybody knows where he's coming from, everyone knows what happened to him, and people just really I think they see how precious life is, and they really start thinking about things that are important. So Wings for Heroes, Wings for Heroes, what I realized, it was not just for the veterans, but it was for the people who forgot what it costs for us, to enjoy our liberties, to enjoy our freedoms and peace.
Well, I think sometimes we have Veterans Day, we have Memorial Day, we have 4th of July, but people don't go and say, well, what are you actually doing? Are you just going to the parade? Are you going to the fireworks? Or are you actually going to help the veterans? So a lot of times we do.
Or you're going to run a sale. How about, those things, like every time I watch, like we turn all our meaningful dates, not really into, or it would be like, oh, thank you to all our fill in the blank. And here is the sale that we're running. And it's like, you take this and you take this and you saying like to me personally, that kind of thing never vibed with me. I think it ticks me the wrong way. And you started with one thing when we started the show. You said, people say thank you for your service. And I go to a lot of podcasts that are run by veterans. And now I'm going into VFW posts because I'd like to start speaking at VFW posts. And I ask veterans, I say, look, how do you feel about this? Thank you for your service. And you would not believe the polarity of the answers. Of course, a lot of people, they'll say, like, it's a great thing to get acknowledged. But a lot of them say that, I feel strange, I volunteered to go and pick up an arm and shoot at people who were shooting back at me. We were shooting at each other. So like, I don't feel like I'm a teacher or a doctor. I was a soldier. And some of them feel really uncomfortable. And if you look at the slogans for Wings for Heroes, I say, my service or our service starts when thank you for your service ends. My service begins when thank you for your service ends.
Because it's a little deeper than that. I think sometimes people say that's like kind of like thoughts and prayers. Well, what are you going to do? Right? You say
it's
something.
An unfulfilled need, right?
Yeah, people would like
I am fulfilling. I'm taking it the next step.
Yeah, you got to do a little bit more than the surface. Like the surface level, that's the polite thing to do. That's the common thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's like the diplomatic thing to say. But what are you actually going to do? Like when you actually put somebody into the air, you're giving them wings, right? And human beings have always been like aspirationally looking at birds and say, wow, I wish I could be a bird, right? I wish I could have that freedom. So if you're somebody that's, if you have any kind of disability, like being able to get into the air and have that idea of flight is just always in poets and writers are always talking about the freedom of flight, right? And the idea of it. I think it's just psychologically and socially, like you tapped into something very, very key there.
Yeah. And this is, that one of the things that you say that people aspire to fly. And when you take somebody who lost a limb into the air, you give them totally different perspective on life, because flying or paragliding is, I would say, the only sport where if you have a leg or not, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Because when you're in the air, you feel it through the part of the body that you sit in the chair, you know. The
You're getting
feelings
rid
you
of all the
find come
restrictions, like when
because
you're
you're
on land.
suspended, right? You don't
Yeah,
need to walk, you don't need to stand, don't need to lay down. You are just sitting comfortably and looking at everything from thousands of feet above the earth and thinking, oh man, I hope I live.
well, it frees you from the reality of, like, on land, you're kind of like, you have to deal with you who
You're
where you
bounded,
are.
yeah.
You've
Yeah.
lost these limbs that you have. You're not capable without getting some, a prosthetic or a wheelchair or some other, like, so you're limited and you know your limitations, right? And you know physically, your mind still can go anywhere you want to go, but your
Yeah.
body has been restricted. When you put
Yeah.
somebody into the air or in the water, then suddenly some of that goes away, and then you have a sense of freedom. So I think that it's really key, because if people are in a certain state psychologically, you're opening up a door, you're breaking the wall, you're breaking the
Yeah.
ceiling, you're giving them another perspective, like you said, and that is super key. Being a creative person, you have to break through these walls. In order to create something, you have to give yourself permission. You have to say, "Well, I can do it." Even though the people would say, "Well, maybe I feel limited," you have to push it, and it's hard, and you're giving people that push, but you give them a lot of
Yes,
benefits
exactly.
from that push.
So exactly. Thank you for wording it so beautifully. I organize the process that gives them a push and that positive experience where they can feel, they can feel the life so intensely. And then when they're done, we're on the beach, they can go swimming, and there's a group of people that really supports them. I have more than 100 volunteers,
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm just like one guy who started this whole thing. And it's amazing to see how people really want to help.
But
When
kinda like the
people
law of
really want to
attraction.
help, yeah, just to do things, the challenge was really honestly the biggest thing was funding it, because I self-funded it for 2 years, and now I'm learning that fundraising is like a totally new business that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's again learning new skills. So
So you're getting more successful
exciting, yeah.
okay, we talked about how you funded it with your own money, but now you're kind of segging into how can I get, like you have your 100 volunteers. So it's like the law of attraction. When you're vibrating or you're doing something with it, like that's very positive in the universe, then
Yeah,
people with like minds come to you. And if you ask
yeah.
for help, sometimes you have to ask. Like, it's like the same, if you don't ask,
Exactly, and
people won't know about it. So if you actually put it out there, like, in the universe, we need funding, and you
exactly.
communicate then if you find ways to better communicate that, then you're gonna get it.
I think you're the best person that I had interviewed with, because you are kind of like, we end one and you just naturally build the bridge to the next thing, which is, yeah, I think it's like with everybody, we all have life challenges. I can get a lot of things accomplished in life and they can be all successful, but there are some things that I'm not really good at. And what I personally have issues with is asking for something.
Mhm.
Like, I'm the guy who works super hard my entire life. I just know the way to get money is to really put in the work. So I really have a big issue with asking for donations, and I'm not really asking for donations in the sense that I want somebody to write me a check. No, I
Mhm.
thought I will go and I will start speaking with people and teaching them what I know from being a 5-time immigrant or Winter Olympian or best-selling author, running a business during a wartime or starting a foundation. And I just want to, my next step was, I will naturally move and build the business, and I will take the money that I will earn in the future and I will fund the mission. The only issue is that Ukraine had more than 100,000 amputees after three years.
Mm.
So if I go at that direction, I will run out of lifetime before I can, really make big impact. And like you said, I had to put my intention now is on of finding the ways to fund the mission after I figured out the cost. Like, I think $4,000 for a month of rehab, including the flights and the food and the housing and everything, is quite low. And I know that part is working. I don't need to tweak it anymore. It's
Yeah.
nearly perfect, right? So now I switch my intention on how to make it grow. And my message to the universe is that I'm looking for partners to make Wings for Heroes, the humanitarian mission where we really take real people and we rehab them, from being really depressed at home to this thing on all our logos. It's a real guy. It's the number one who we flew.
Oh, wow.
So, I actually took number one and I followed him all the way through his recovery. They didn't do his amputation the right way the first time, so he had to have a second one.
Second operation, yeah.
And it's another prosthetic, and it's another time learning how to walk again. And then he was the first guy who go through a month of rehab, not because we planned it, but because I took him to my physical therapist. I said it was just, let's go take a look at your leg. And she saw his leg and said, look how he's walking. He's a big guy. He's standing on one leg all the time, and it's compressing his muscles on only one leg to the point where it was pressing on his sciatic nerve. And she said, look, he's kicking the leg sideways. So said one wrong move and he can pinch the nerve and he will be paralyzed. I said, what do we do? And she said, we need an intensive 1 month of physical therapy. You got to bring best if you leave him here, because it was April 9 to 19th. We had our season opening. I said, best if you leave him here, but man, you have May, he has to come back and he has to start in May. And, I found a way to fund his recovery, to bring him back here. And if you go on our website, I'm finally making movies about his rehab. So it's either it's on Wings for Heroes, both on our Facebook, Instagram, and also on our website about his recovery process. And if you think about it, when we were done, he actually qualified for a new prosthetic leg that cost $75,000 because it has a knee sensor and there's an AI in it right now. So basically, what I learned, what you learn about amputations, that they're not all the same. The guys who still have a knee, they said the joke is that you're ready for an assault brigade, and they actually go out, and some of them do fight again, even with missing, they're missing legs below the knee. But the ones who don't have a knee, it's a totally different situation, because now they can't even walk down the hip, down an incline because they fall over. But with that fancy thing, now we have our youngest volunteer is 5. She went through all swimming sessions, every swimming sessions, it was like 120 degrees here. We were riding in the car that was donated by the same guy who donated this office. We didn't have air conditioner. It was overheating, but I would ask her, are you coming? She says, like, of course, I'm the support team. And she came, and then when he qualified for that prosthetic, she said, okay, his name is Valik. Said next time Valik comes back, he can run, he can bike, and he can swim just like us, because he's getting this new prosthetic leg. And now, number one, he has his new prosthetic leg with his knee. He's traveling around Europe. He went to Poland, he went to Germany, he took his girlfriend to Paris independently. The guy is traveling by himself. And get this, he became a captain of his amputee soccer team. His dream was, the only thing that he knew before the war started, it was soccer. It was
soccer was his love.
20-year-old soccer. He loses his leg, so we lose the dream of soccer, but not. And he called right before I went to the States. He called, he says, look, Loo-beem, all my life I was dreaming about going to this modern stadium with lights and everything. He says, our team right now is in Poland. They were in the brand new stadium. He said, like, I am in my dream right now. We're standing on the stadium. I'm under the lamps, man. He said, I'm sorry I couldn't call you because I'm so busy since the day I got back. I am living my dream. So
that's the whole point. Like, what you're doing is to have a story like that. And it's cool that you're filming it, telling the story. Because I think that's what people need to see. Because some people get so depressed by the state of the world, and they don't think there's anything they can do. And when you actually show people that going beyond yourself, right, and actually caring about some other human being has positive effects that go beyond you, right? It goes from the microcosm to the macrocosm. It goes outside to everybody.
Yeah.
So like I know one thing that you mentioned in your bio, you were at the World Trade Center during 9/11. And
Hmm.
so did that really frame your mindset or your worldview? Like how did that affect you?
I think it was a major effect because I graduated to the United States because it was not safe living in the country of my birth anymore. So I was born in the former Soviet Union.
Hmm.
In 91, it fell apart. And when it fell apart, there were 15 republics that comprised Soviet Union. And now all those 15 republics became independent countries. And it was a total chaos because nobody was prepared to it. And my dad decided that, I was 17, I was still a minor. He decided it's time to go. And, we left a place that was not safe and we went to the safest place on the planet.
Yeah. It's
Then
supposed to be.
after graduating from New York University, I worked on Wall Street. Actually, I worked on Broad Street, 2 buildings down from the New York Stock Exchange.
Mm.
And my big dream was to work in the World Trade Center. It was really like one of the big dreams, like a dream
Yeah,
of
like
going to the
Care for
Olympics
Fitzgerald, all
and
those
dream
like
of working
yeah.
in the World Trade Center. They were on the same level for me. It was really, I was serious about working in the World Trade Center. As a matter of fact, when a few traders in our company decided that they're going to break away and they're going to go, start a firm with another group of traders. And they said, Loo-beem, we're going to look at an office in the World Trade Center. Do you want to come with us? I was like, of course I want to go see the
Mhm.
World Trade Center office. And we go into that office and it's like this phantom. It's like windows from ceiling to floor.
Yeah.
It was all glass. You walk in, you look. The first time we were on the 45th floor, looking out west, Hudson River, New Jersey on the other side. If you left down Statue of Liberty, all the bridges, it's like,
Yeah, I remember I
that's the
visited there one
view
time.
from there.
I was on the
Did you go to the
observation deck.
top?
I went to the observation deck level, but,
Oh, cool.
that as a kid, I had a trip, and, my school went, and we went to the World Trade Center to go observation deck and went to look at the UN, went to museums. We were just all around New
Okay,
York
so
doing
so
stuff.
like it's really
Yeah, yeah.
it was wow. And I wasn't paying attention to what the conversation was because I just started, I graduated. I was really low in the company. I was one of the noobs, and they finished talking. They say, Loo-beem, so what do you think about this? I say, yeah, I'm in. And
Yeah.
they start laughing. They're saying, you didn't even hear the offer. And I said, look, guys, I don't care.
Yeah,
I
you're
don't care.
there.
If I
You get to
have to
see the
pay
view. The
to
view was
work
enough.
here, I will pay and I will work here. And,
Yeah.
it was just, it was a big dream come true. And of course, after the buildings were destroyed, there was nothing for me in New York. Like the next morning, I was standing looking at what was burning and the smoke was blowing across the street. I knew I was done with New York. And I left. And my next 3-4 years were just really like, it's just trying to find myself. I went to Colorado.
Mhm.
Then I went to California. In California, if you're a trader, you start 3 hours early. It's middle of the night. You finish, it's not even, it's still early in the day. The culture is really chill and loose compared to New York. So like all that didn't work for me. I went back to Colorado, and then I got an offer for a trading firm, and I moved to Texas, Austin, Texas. And then in 2003, I got hired by American Express Financial Advisors in Denver. So
Okay.
from 2001 to 2003, it was just going between the places and not knowing where I'm going to be.
Mhm.
And because my office was destroyed in a terror attack,
Yeah.
and I did not have a place to work or live, I was classified as a displaced person. And the Red Cross, that is inspiration right now to me, so many years later, they sent me a check for $15,000.
Wow.
And they said, yeah, they gave me the money just to rebuild and to come back. So when anybody says about anything negative about Red Cross, I have really positive experience, and I'm looking at the brightest side of that organization because humanity would lose if the Red Cross was not there. We would lose. We don't even know. We cannot even imagine the benefit that that organization brought to the world. So if there are pockets of scandals and issues, and it's part of living in our world, I do not support that, but I feel nothing but deep sense of gratitude and appreciation to the Red Cross, for what they've done to me and for what the Red Cross has done to humanity.
I think it's
One of the
important.
things.
Yeah, I mean, there you need to have that baseline of what they're doing. Of course, in the world, you can always make improvements. You can always try to, tighten things up. But like, if you compare it to like, oh, you're just gonna get rid of it, or will you
Yeah.
make it
Then
better?
what?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like some people say, well, it's on or off. You turn it off, like it's gone, right? So you have to
Yeah. You
kind of
see,
live in reality.
I think one of the things that we all need to be really mindful of how complex and interconnected things and processes are in today's world. That if somebody is doing something bad on the other side of the planet, if something happens, you will see it in the US stock market in the morning, and then you will read about it in the afternoon, and you'll see it on TV at night. Like, everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
And if we turn off an organization that is international and it is part of a big, it's just a little, it's a link in the chain that we can
Cog in
destroy
the
the whole
machine. Yeah.
chain. So like, like going and closing and chopping like that, I don't know. It's
Well,
really.
we have a lot of people, like in the tech world, there's the disruptor. The disruptor type of mindset is they feel like, okay, just break it. Because there's a mindset that a lot of stuff that was created in the 19th and 20th century from like the Enlightenment, a lot of the tech
Mhm,
pros think you should just break all that and
mhm,
may have this disruption and see what falls out. Well, what they don't seem to understand, because they didn't really take a lot of sociology, and they didn't seem like they didn't really take a lot of history. They're just so stuck on STEM without thinking about the interconnectedness of the stuff they're doing.
yeah.
And I think it's like the problem is if you're so narrow and all you think is AI is the savior, right? Tech is the savior, but you don't think about, well, privacy law,
Mhm,
more morality,
mhm,
people's property rights, their
mhm.
civil rights. If you say, well, that's not important, right? Because I want to be a disruptor, and I don't think that any of those things that come from that
Not really.
liberalism, that come from the why did we create the Constitution? Like, why did we have, you know, uh, why did those people, when they came from England, they come up with this idea that they didn't want kings, right? That they wanted
Yes.
rights, that they wanted,
Yes.
those things. That's not important. You think they're so
Liberty, privacy,
yeah, liberty, privacy, right?
pursuing happiness.
Happiness rights, like equal rights. It's like, yeah, now you're saying, oh, well, we don't. You got to give me
All
all
your
your social
rights if you
media
want to
history.
have.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
give me
right.
all your social media history.
You
And if I
actually,
don't like
I
what you
just
did,
take
you
it.
can't come
I
in.
think we're next level, right? I just take it or you're not welcome.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah. I just think that people need to understand, like, it's not just a piece of paper. There's something behind that piece of paper. There's an idea that actually, when you put it into action, is due process. You just don't go and grab somebody and say, "Oh, I made a mistake," right? No, you got to
Yeah.
have a warrant, right? You got to have a
Yeah.
reason, right? You can't just
Yes.
like go and say all immigrants are bad. Like, why? Why do you say that? That's the
I am
mindset
an
that we're
immigrant.
doing. Yeah, that's what
Look,
they're
Phantom,
doing
I am an
nowadays.
immigrant, and I live every day. I am an American. There's no question about it. I know my allegiance. Yeah, I'm an American, and I travel the world. There is a lot of negative stigma against Americans, and I am the one who is changing that negative image.
Yeah,
I'm the
but
guy who's doing the hard work that nobody wants to do, and I'm not saying anything except thank you for your help because I'm in a foreign country. Okay. And when I travel and I see how some other people behave who were born in the United States, it's just really, it's not cool.
yeah,
But I'm saying I am here. I want to set an example. I want to show that, first of all, I stayed in Ukraine because we are the nation that believes we can fix everything. I don't care that there's a war going on and we have a lot of issues. I have to get diesel in Ukraine during the war. Imagine that.
Well, you guys are fighters. I mean, you believe in what our founders believed in, and now we're like, well, we should be supporting that.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm an American. I believe in
Yeah,
the U.S. Constitution. I really think that it's the best country in the world, and the reason why we should follow the foundation, the Constitution and the rules and laws that were written out and placed by the founding fathers is because that is what the foundation of our country is. And if you start making exceptions and chipping at the foundation, you know what happens. It always happens. You can bring down the whole house. If
yeah.
you
Well, yeah,
chip at the foundation, then it doesn't matter that you have the best, the most shiniest roof in the whole world.
yeah. Well, that's the problem. Like
So,
the gold, all the gold doesn't mean anything, right? What means something is the Constitution itself, right? It's the what those ideas, and maybe that's too heady for some people because people, they can't read as well as they used to. So there's a lot of people like, have you ever, you ask Americans like, did you read the Constitution? Did you read the Articles of Confederation? Did you read Common Sense? Did you read the Federalist Papers? I was a political science major, so I did.
okay.
But a lot of people, they have a very surface vision of what is so important, right? And if an
Mhm.
immigrant comes in and becomes a citizen, they have to take the citizenship test and they have to understand that stuff. But a lot of Americans, we kind of take it for granted, and I don't think they understand what it means. And they
Mhm.
really need to kind of brush up on it because it's critically important.
Phantom, do you notice that we have this strange character trait that sometimes, or most of the time, or a lot of times, like people take for granted beautiful things that they have in life until those things are gone, and then you really realize what you had. And
Yeah.
like one of the things for me, spending 24 years in the United States and really like, I just went through everything. It was just perfect and beautiful experience. And then going back to Ukraine, like one of the things that I was asking universe, like I studied finance and accounting. It was my thing. I really wanted to know. And one of the things I wanted to know was, what does corruption do to a country? Why is
Mhm.
corruption such a big deal? Like really, you understand it. They teach you, the consequences if you're part of some kind of corruption scheme or whatever, right? But like, what does it really do to a country? And then I end up in Ukraine in 2015, after 1 year after annexation of Crimea. I really saw what it does. And I mean, like, the way things were going, I was just like, this is not sustainable. How can it be? Meaning that you could do whatever you needed to do to survive. It was like that.
Mhm.
And then you have this part of the country, the people who are in the government, in the capital, in Kiev, they're making such huge numbers that even getting a degree at New York University, working on Wall Street, those numbers shocked me. How
Mhm.
much money they're taking out of the country. And that war is the big part and the big consequence of some people being corrupt. So, if we start changing things, the end is always like that. And the reason that we cannot change, because there is no other place like the United States that has a constitution like we have. And that is why it's so important, because it would be the end of the world, like really,
Yeah.
it would
Well, yeah,
be.
realignment. I mean, if we lose like what we created after World War II with NATO and the UN and the alliances and the points, that whole structure, there's a lot of people that somehow think that's passe. They don't think that structure should exist anymore, and they're making moves to get rid of it. And I think they don't understand that it's not all about these these multinational companies, these tech bros, these billionaires classes. Like they got this kind of robber baron mentality that goes back kind of old. All they care about is getting to resources.
Mhm.
They want
Yeah.
access to resources, materials, and people. So if
Control.
in
Yeah.
control of that, and it doesn't really matter if it's a socialist state or communist state or capitalist state, they don't care about that. All they care about is, like, again at the beginning, is greed is good, and so they don't care if what they do creates more veterans, might creates more amputees, creates more displaced people. They have no concern. All their concern is going for the gold.
Yeah. And again, we're so far, we're so isolated from what is going on in the world, but at the same time we have access to all that information because like when I came to the States in the last century, there was no internet, so I had no clue what was going on somewhere else. Today we have the internet and you can really go and see, yeah, we have a lot of fakes, but you can find out information today. And I think one of the things that I really believe is that empires don't fall when they're attacked. They fall when their citizens stop caring and paying
Well, you look at
attention.
Rome, you look at the British Empire, like any of the empires, Eritrea, any empire you go, if you look at how did it fall apart, it really fell apart from the corruption and the rot within. The rot within any empire causes it to go, they get overblown, they take on things they can't sustain, and they become like the legitimacy becomes in question, and whatever power they had through fear or intimidation or from structure, if we have more power from our legitimacy of our constitution, it's an idea. But if you pull at the pillars of the idea and then you make it not valid anymore, you don't have to get into a fight with us for we just took ourselves out.
Yeah.
So you don't have to get into a battle. It's like we kind of blew the battle from the day.
Yeah, you just kill yourself. You
shot
shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like what we need to do is more empathy, more expansion, more communication, more reaching out, and more action. Like it's having an idea in your head is not going to work if you don't put it out in the world.
Phantom, I would say this is important, and here we should say this is regarding everything, not just starting missions, saving the world, but like things that we really want to do for ourselves, because people are not only disconnected from what's going on in the world, they're disconnected from themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I should lose weight, I should quit smoking, I should exercise more, I should spend time with my family. Like these little things is actually a good place to start taking action, because I think most people in the States are overburdened. We have so many responsibilities, and you have so little time. And I think a lot of people spend their time thinking of what they should be doing, not actually doing things.
Yeah,
it's great, that you can start a mission, or start something that important and like change the world. But the thing is that before doing anything, I wake up in the morning and I exercise, because I know that if I don't exercise, then I cannot, run this mission.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that, there are like, we ignored like things that we just have to do for ourselves. And I think that one of the biggest things that I ended up doing for myself without planning on doing it, and I'm just realizing it like now, is that I think the best way to heal yourself or to recover from something is by helping other people heal. And in this case, people who are in a lot worse situation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, no matter how bad the situation gets in my life, right? Like how nothing works, right? Like you turn around and you look at the guy that I'm helping, it just completely, it turns off. It makes everything so relevant and relative that I really don't have any issues. And I think that, since we're after Thanksgiving and we're going into holiday Christmas time, that's like, the best time of the year to just, if you're really suffering and you're going through a difficult time right now, go volunteer at the soup kitchen.
Yeah. Well, I think empathy,
and you will see just in such a simple thing, you will be standing on the other side of something that provides life, which is food, from people who don't have it, and then you realize that that line is so thin, and you feel that gratitude, and you said you send messages. I think feeling of gratitude is one of the most positively charged energies that we can carry, and that way you start getting all the good things. And it's
Yeah,
Christmas time.
I
I
think
hope.
it's real important to have, like, instead of otherizing people, actually having empathy, and not just empathy, but then taking action, like going to the soup
Yeah,
kitchen, going
yeah,
to the homeless
do
shelter,
something.
good doing what you can. Like, if you go and say, "Well, what can I do? I could help clean up. I could help bring people back and forth. I could help. Maybe I'm an accountant. Maybe I can help with their books. Like, maybe I can go say, hey, maybe I'm a programmer. I can go help them code something they need. Like, you find whatever you
Yeah,
can do. Yes, what do you need? This is what I know. What do you need? How could you use it? So, you got to be think out the box. Just try, communicate. Like, again, there are no stupid questions. Ask the question. Like, like, because all you just people make all these assumptions, and then they say, "Why it can't be done?" You have to just like, why can't it be done? Or like, why can't I talk to this guy? Maybe I would just go over and talk to him. So they're like,
this
and
is this is the thing is that I think, look, guys, you can use me as an example, because it's exactly the same thing when I asked, why can it not be done? And I had a lot of friends who said, and when I'm on podcasts, people say, look, what you're doing is it meant for governments, these big organizations. Like, why? I said, well, because exactly, I want to show you why. I want to show that actually one person, if they start something and they really, take action and go after it, you can get it done. And running a mission that helps amputees, I'm sorry, it's not like a popular, sexy topic to talk about. It's not like I have lines out the door waiting to help me, but it
yeah,
proves the point. So if somebody is watching us and you're hesitant about starting a business or moving forward on some idea, like, just do it. The
I think
worst
it's
thing is
super.
that you'll change your mind later, but you got to try and see if it actually will fly.
I think that's super important. We'll kind of close on that. We'll let everybody know. Please scan the QR code because that will link to your HTTPS wingsforheroes.org. You can go right there, and if people click on your on your URL, what do they find ways to like contact you and sign up or connect?
I try to keep the website, like, that it tells the story. I am making videos about the work that we do. You can also watch them on the same website and read it. And the way you can support us right now is there is a support button, and you'll see a T-shirt and a hoodie, but it's not a
Hmm.
T-shirt and it's not a hoodie. It's actually a promise cap. That's the same logo and stuff that I wear. And what I did was I priced plus $40 on each T-shirt and hoodie, and if I sell 100, that means that I can bring a veteran for 1 month of full rehab, including what we talked about: tickets, housing, food,
Oh yeah,
12 physical therapy sessions, and all the things. So you can buy one, you can buy 100, but you have to wear them. So that's the
yeah.
that's the deal.
That's
Anyways, but I think another thing is that if somebody is really wants to help, contact button
hmm
is the best way, because I know that there are people who are looking to get involved, and I'm looking for partners to expand it. I'm going to the States in 2026. Did I lose you?
no, no. I'm here.
Oh,
You-
something happened. I just got
Do you
1
see me?
second. Yeah, I see you.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you see me? Yeah, I just
Yeah.
flipped on.
It flipped a little bit. Yeah. Well, it's tech.
Yeah, 2026, US veterans. I found a place to fly them. It will be in Torrey Pines in California, right next to our naval base. And again, we have two programs. One is recreational, just fly, relax, feel loved. And another one is physical therapy, full on intensive rehab. So
Awesome. Well, I hope
wingsforheroes.org should have all the info that you're looking for. And the most important is there's a phone number and the contact button. Yeah, that's the.
I'll let everybody know they're also on the platforms that we've been streaming on: LinkedIn, YouTube, and Kick. Within the podcast description, your URL is a clickable URL But for those of you that use your camera on your phone, you can just scan that QR code and go right to it right now. I want to thank you for being on the show today. We've been live on those channels, and we will be on all the major podcast channels by the end of the day tomorrow. And we'll give you a landing page so you can give that to your folks if they want to check it out on any platform they're comfortable with. But thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Phantom. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.